you doing, everybody? And welcome to Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. We're back. It's Wednesday. It's Hump Day. It's Hump Day in the great state of Wisconsin. And there's only one man who knows about that, so I got to jump to him right away. Austin and Rogan both with me today, but I got to go to Austin first. Austin, how we doing on this Wednesday?
It's a great hump day, Trage. Not a whole lot going on in the city of La Crosse. State of Wisconsin, I feel like there's not a whole lot going on either. Not a whole lot of news, but, we're going to try our best to dig deep into things that are going on today and provide for the community, as I always say,
He provides for the community. He throws on glasses before we start. We know it's a serious day when he pulls up the
thinking glasses, Trage. There's a lot of thinking going on, a lot of critical thinking going on today.
Don't set off the fire alarm. Rogan, how are we doing on this Wednesday?
I was doing good, Trage. I got my Ace Ventura shirt on. I was just recovering from hearing that. Just recovering from hearing that terrible news that Taylor Swift's coming out with another album. And then, hit with the sad news this morning that Toby Keith passed away. A very sad day for us here to see Toby go, but way too early too. 62 years old, insane. But yeah, other than that, pretty good, Trage.
I did see Post Malone is going to be on that new album with Taylor Swift, so that's quite the combo of two artists there. I'm not a fan of Posty, so I can't get behind that.
Yeah, I love Taylor Swift. So
you see Post Malone's doing a country album. He's got like 60 songs that he's picking.
Everybody goes country now. They all think they can go country. It's not even country music anymore. I don't count Morgan Wallen as country. I don't count Morgan Wallen as country.
It's a country pop.
Country. Yeah. He's a pop country. Kane Brown is pop country. That's what I'm talking. There aren't many real country singers anymore in the world of country music.
We were lifting today in the weight room, and our coach put on strictly Toby Keith.
Taylor Swift.
No, strictly Toby Keith, in honor of him. So I just thought that was pretty good. Some little slower songs, but was still able to get a pretty good pump in with Made in America and Should Have Been a Cowboy, all of them good ones, Red Solo Cup.
Did you throw up a fist and support Austin for Toby?
I did a couple times, and then I'm like, probably shouldn't do that.
Tip back a few.
Statue of Liberty shaking her fist, and I started shaking my fist when they said that.
Should have been a cowboy.
All right. Karaoke time. Here we go. So with that, we got a lot to get into today. We want to jump into right away. I want to talk about the NBA trade deadline coming up here tomorrow, Thursday there. I believe it's at like 3 Eastern, 4 Eastern. Somewhere in there is the NBA trade deadline finale or whatever you want to call it there. But Bucks still haven't done anything. Not that we know of yet. And I kind of call it worrisome if you're asking me, because I would have expected the Bucks to make a move by now after these last couple games that we've watched. So we reached out on Facebook asking people to see what they thought of the Bucks leading into the trade deadline, what they thought they had to address, and who do you think they should be looking at. Got a lot of answers for perimeter defenders. They need guys out there on the defensive end on the perimeter. One guy said Holiday. He wants to bring back Drew Holiday. So he's already done with the Dame time experience. He wants Drew Holiday back in Milwaukee. Another guy, I found this one funny. He comes out and says, not sure, asked the new owner Giannis. So we got to ask Giannis Antetokounmpo who we want on this team. But the majority of these, what I'm seeing right now, a lot of people saying roster overhaul. A lot of people saying we need to get some younger guys on this team. And a lot of people leaning towards the bench. So, Rogan, leading into this last day here, we've watched the Bucks past couple games. We've talked about it a little bit here. But, we're in the last 24 hours now. We're getting closer and closer to that trade deadline. What are we thinking right now with the Milwaukee Bucks? And, you can't address all the problems. So, where's your key spot that you are looking at that the Bucks need to address right now?
Yeah, like he was saying, I think you definitely need bench help there. I wouldn't mind them getting a more athletic center. I could see this team moving on for Brook Lopez. I really could. Getting a more athletic defender who kind of fits fits Doc's scheme a little bit better. He doesn't like to do a lot of that drop, that screen pick and roll drop that Lopez does there. And, with the NBA, you kind of don't see a lot of trades until about a couple hours before the trade deadline, just because it'd be dumb to trade early in the season just because of how much teams demand for their players. If you wait kind of more towards the end, these players want to move on from some of these guys, and they will drop the asking price. So you look at a guy like, obviously, like we were talking yesterday, Grant Williams, the Bucks have had interest in. I just saw today Dorian Finney-Smith they're looking at from the Nets there. They've been involved with possibly Caruso, a lot of guys like that. So I do think the Bucks coming up on this trade deadline here are going to be very aggressive. They have to be at this point.
I'm going to give you a hypothetical, and this is just something I was thinking up of today. We know the Warriors I believe the Warriors would be open to moving a guy like Andrew Wiggins off of their roster, and they have a guy out there by the name of Trayce Jackson-Davis. Now, the Bucks would probably have to give up the problem with the Bucks, and this is my biggest problem, is they don't have a lot to trade. If you really look at the Bucks, they don't have a lot of youth to trade. They don't have a bench to trade off of, unless if you're looking at Bobby Portis. But other than that, there isn't much to trade off the bench. So you would probably, in that trade, be looking at some of your main guys being sent out there. But a guy like Andrew Wiggins brings you experience at that small forward position right now. And then a guy like Trayce Jackson-Davis, like you were talking about, an athletic big man. He's 6'9", 6'10", but he's athletic. He can get up and down the court. And the way the NBA is trending right now, kind of going off of size and more into like you said, athleticism there at the big man spot. Trayce Jackson-Davis could be that guy for this Bucks team. So you could afford, let's just say, Brook Lopez. You trade away a guy like Brook Lopez. I know you're going to take a step back with Trayce Jackson-Davis, but I think you have to. I looked at a couple of these replies, and I don't think you can do a complete roster overhaul, but I think you can get younger while still staying competitive. And I believe a trade like that, getting a guy like Andrew Wiggins and a guy like Trayce Jackson-Davis, that could definitely help out the Bucks now and could help them out in the future there too, with a guy like Jackson-Davis there being as young as he is. I think it's only his first or second year in the league. I don't think he's been in there long. I think first year. I think he might be a rookie this year.
He's a rookie this year, yep.
Yep. So, way that he's showing some promise there with the Warriors already. Bring him into the Bucks, fine tool him. I think that would be a decent move by Milwaukee. So, just jumping off of that, are there any scenarios, trades, packages, anything you guys think the Bucks should be looking at right now? It could be out of the water, but anything you think the Bucks should be looking for?
Obviously, besides the perimeter defense, like you guys were saying, younger guys possibly. What I'm looking at, Bleacher Report at least, not Bucks specific, like a lot of the things that are rumors or things that could possibly happen, they don't even mention the Bucks at least once, and that's at least 10 guys I think that they have on here, 11 guys that are possibly might get traded to different teams. But Alex Caruso is one of them. He's number 9 on here. But they're saying he might go to the Sacramento Kings there. Malcolm Brogdon, I feel like, could be one guy that we could get from the Portland Trailblazers, but I don't think it's going to happen just because we kind of just took Damian Lillard for them. I don't know why they would give us another person. But they're saying that he might go to the Orlando Magic here on Bleacher Report. But besides that, there's not a whole lot of other guys that are really, maybe Andrew Wiggins. They say that he might be going to the Dallas Mavericks on here, but Andrew Wiggins honestly has kind of had a down year. It's still Andrew Wiggins, still a really good player, but from what we used to see from Andrew Wiggins, definitely a down year from him, and he's a little bit older. Younger than Brook Lopez, younger than some maybe other guys that we have, but definitely he's been in the league for some time now. DeMar DeRozan possibly might go to the Philadelphia 76ers. I feel like usually we hear about trades. I never understood why trades don't really happen until there's probably 6 hours left in the trade deadline. You'd think that people would make trades before then, But no, they kind of wait until the very last hour or so until to make a trade, and it's like, where the heck did this come from? But maybe that's something that we might see from the Bucks, because as of now, we haven't heard anything of any rumblings of it, and us being fans, we're like, well, we kind of need something, but we haven't heard anything, and we kind of, at least trades, you keep up to date a lot with everything going on, and I'm usually scrolling through Twitter or something. I feel like I'd see something, but there's honestly nothing that we're seeing from the outsider's perspective. So possibly something that we could see where it's one of those, something crazy happens within the last 5-6 hours of trading, and then next thing you know, we have somehow a pretty good defensive perimeter player there. But at least how Bleacher Report goes, they kind of don't really mention anything about the Bucks, which I thought they would, but not a whole lot there. That's kind of the only website I really checked, because it was the first one. I just looked up NBA trade deadline rumors, and that was one of the biggest ones that kind of stood out there. So Bucks wise, hopefully we get something, but honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't, because that's just kind of how this year's gone, and we're only halfway through it. And what's crazy thing is, we're still second in the East, and I feel like we've just been playing so crappy lately. Like we're obviously not playing to our fullest potential. Doc Rivers, I don't know. He's coached how many games now? 4 or 5, and has he really impressed us? Not really. We've went 1-3 in those past few games. At least Adrian Griffin had us winning. He had us in a winning streak for a little bit there. We questioned his defense, but his offense seemed like it was going pretty good. Doc Rivers, now we're questioning the offense. Seems like something's not going right. We're either getting one and not the other. And that's something we might have to figure out going into this trade deadline here, with how many hours are left in it, almost a day now, that we need to fix some of these spots on our team and start winning more games to set us up for potential success.
Yeah, 100%. And the biggest thing with Wisconsin sports, and it seems like it's every sport, is that when it comes to trade deadlines, you don't hear anything. The world is silent in Wisconsin. You'll hear news out of, like, if you say like the Brewers in the MLB, you'll hear news out of like the Dodgers or the Yankees. You never hear anything about the Brewers. Same in the NBA here. We don't hear anything about the Bucks right now. The only rumor I heard, and we talked about it a little bit yesterday there, was Bobby Portis for Grant Williams. I think that's a terrible trade for the Bucks. I don't think Grant Williams is worth one-on-one trade with Bobby Portis. Now, if you called down to the Mavs and you said, we'll take Grant Williams and Tim Hardaway Jr., and you and we'll give you Bobby Portis and say Pat Connaughton, I'm all in. I'm all in with that trade. I mean, that would be a solid trade for the Bucks. You'd be getting a good defender in Tim Hardaway Jr. You'd be getting a good defender in Grant Williams. Good scorers there. Decent scorers at least out of both of them. And I mean, you lose Bobby, but Pat Connaughton, what's he really doing for you? I don't know. Would you say, Rogan, that there are too many holes in this Bucks roster to fill at a trade deadline, unless if you just, trade away everybody? I mean, if you just unload some massive player. I mean, what would you feel about trading a guy like Chris Middleton? Because Middleton is probably going to get you your biggest return if you don't, except for like a guy like Giannis or Dame, but you're not going to trade a guy like Giannis or Dame. So Middleton's your next man up for a possible trade scenario there. I mean, do you believe that the Bucks can actually completely, because the bench is terrible. We know this. The bench for the Bucks is terrible. Perimeter defense in the starting rotation is terrible. Do we really think the Bucks can address all of the needs here in one trade deadline?
Listen, boys, I've been thinking of a little plan here if I was the Bucks GM, and this is what I'd be going for. There's a guy by the name of DeAndre Hunter on the Atlanta Hawks right now. He's a bench player, averages about 15 points a game, a good wing defender, a really good three-point shooter, young.
Out of Virginia, he's got to be a good defender.
Yep. The Hawks have been talking about, there's rumors about them trading. Obviously, that's probably going to cost you something because it's obviously both of them in an Eastern Conference, but Hawks have been struggling this year. So you trade for him. I think you send them Brook Lopez and maybe like a Marjan type of player, I think you have to send him a Brook Lopez and a Marjan guy. So now we got him. I'm keeping Bobby Portis coming off the bench. I'm moving Giannis to the center, and then I'm going to stick in DeAndre Hunter there at the power forward. So now you got a starting lineup of Lillard, Beasley, Middleton, Hunter, Giannis. Then I'm calling up the Kings. And I'm doing whatever it takes to get Davion Mitchell. He's a bench player there. He is an absolute stud defender. He's not going to give you a lot on the offensive side of the ball, but you don't need that. You need a defender. And I don't think it's going to cost a ton to get him because he's not playing a ton of minutes with the Kings right now. I think maybe a second-round pick. If you have to give the Kings a first-round pick, do it. This team isn't in the business for picking first-rounders anyways and actually having them contribute. They need guys now. So if you have to send over a first-round pick, do it. So now you bring him over there, and I think he gives you a lot of flexibility. You could start him over Beasley. You could. But I could see him more of a guy coming off the bench. So then you got a bench that now you have him. I mean, this guy is an all-NBA caliber defender coming off your bench there. If he has to start against some of these elite guards, you can. You still got Bobby Portis there. That front five is a lot more athletic with Giannis running the five, and now you throw in DeAndre Hunter. Or you can start Bobby Portis at the center and bring DeAndre Hunter off the bench. It doesn't matter what you do there, but now you brought in a very good wing defender for guys like when you play guys like Tatum, when you play guys like Brown, but you also brought in a extremely good perimeter guard defender in Davion Mitchell. So if I'm the Bucks, that's my plan. I'm targeting those two guys, and I'm doing kind of whatever it takes to get them.
I love it. I love the whole scenario. The only thing that still kicks me is the bench. The bench still kicks me. Because, like you said, Davion Mitchell coming off the bench there, I mean, a phenomenal defender. We saw it at Baylor. Now we're seeing in the NBA. This guy gets after guys, and it's ridiculous watching him defend. But I just don't see the scoring off the bench yet. That's the only kicker that I look at. In every scenario the Bucks make a trade or anything like that, there's still something they haven't addressed. And I think the biggest problem right now, we talk about it every game. It seems like we talked about it yesterday. Every game we talk about the Bucks, the one problem lies in the bench. Whoever we're playing, their bench will go off for 40 points and our bench musters up 10. Or if we're lucky, Bobby goes for 25. But we can't expect Bobby to go for 25 every single night off of the bench there for the Bucks. So I love the trade scenario. I think, 100% it makes our starting five more athletic. It gives us a little bit for the future there too. That bench, I just don't see that scorer coming off the bench for the Bucks right now. I always thought Bieshkamp could be that guy for the Bucks, and I don't know if Doc's going to start using, because I mean, you look at the last couple games for the Bucks, and your scenario works because Doc Rivers is playing starters for 40 minutes. I mean, but you're going to run into a problem there if you start playing back-to-back nights, running your starters for 40 minutes. They're going to get gassed. And you're going to have some sort of player off of the bench who can make up for a little bit of that scoring here and there. And I like I said, I'm completely for the scenario you gave me, but I just, truth be told, for me, no matter what way I look at it, it's like there's still something. There's still something that it's like, this is a big hole. Whether you fill it in the starting rotation or you fill it on the bench, you're missing out on the other one. And I think it's just, I don't know if it's too big for the Bucks to overcome. If that's kind of, I think the only way that I think they could somehow make it work yet this year where they could put on a deep run into the postseason is if the starters can play 40 minutes a night and not get gassed. That would be number one. Or number two, they address the bench issue. They find guys to add to that bench who you don't have to waste a lot on, but they're still going to bring scoring. And that's hard to come by because not many teams with scorers on their bench are going to say, hey, Bucks, we'll give you this guy for a second-round pick, a late second-round pick, and that's it. So, I mean, it's so tough right now. That's where we talked yesterday with the Bucks their drafting and how they've drafted in the past here. It's starting to come back and bite them because they don't have guys available that they can really say, I want to get rid of this guy. I'm going to get rid of this guy, and we can make a package around him, right? You can't make a package around Andre Jackson Jr. You can't. I mean, no team is calling and saying, this is the guy we want solely off your roster. All those guys are sitting in the starting roles for the Bucks right now, or a guy like Bobby who technically could be in a starting role with the Bucks if the Bucks chose to go that direction. So I don't know. This trade deadline is going to be interesting. I just feel like there's too many moves. The Bucks. I just wish there was more guys out in free agency right now that the Bucks could go out and grab that were going to lead to better scoring. Because as of right now, I just don't see them being able to address it all at the trade deadline. So Austin, I mean, what are you thinking? Do you think the Bucks could address it here at the trade deadline? Do you think they're going to be able to kind of make it all work here at the trade deadline to fix the mess that we got going on right now?
To be honest, I don't know if they're going to be able to squeeze it in. Kind of like what you were saying earlier, we don't really, being Wisconsin fans, we don't really see any Wisconsin team trying to make trades ever, except for, well, just in general, we don't really see, maybe the Brewers do get some late trades on the trade deadline. We see all that 2018 season. And then that one year they got Jonathan Scope, I believe, that one year too. But we don't really see a whole lot from Wisconsin fans. And I don't know if that's because we're such a small market team or we just think that we're always good enough that we don't need to make trades. But this Bucks team needs something here. And like you were saying, their bench needs something. If we don't have Bobby Portis coming off the bench, our bench is pretty much irrelevant. Nothing's really going on, especially now with Doc Rivers. Seems like he is playing a lot more of the starters. So that just even shows more that our bench is even more irrelevant. But also, who does he have on the bench that he can trust now? We've seen what these guys have been able or have not been able to do. And you honestly can't really play them. They're not going to really produce for you there from that, except for maybe one or two games. You'll see him somehow score double-digit points for a couple there. So, honestly, are they going to be able to squeeze a trade out? I don't know. I'd be surprised, honestly, if they do. I'll be very shocked. But I feel like the Bucks would be one of the teams that would just trade someone, kind of like a Corbin Burns trade, where we trade one of our good guys for just two crappy guys, and it's like, why would we do that even? Like, we just made our team even more worse. But if you look at maybe you want some younger guys, then you're kind of looking at that Corbin Burns trade. But obviously Corbin Burns to the Bucks is probably like what, maybe Chris Middleton? If you want to, maybe that's pretty accurate there. He's not, because Christian Yelich, you look at, he's pretty much like Giannis, if you want to say equivalent wise, just because he's been there for forever. He has an MVP. But I say Chris Middleton, you might be able to get two younger guys for him. But I feel like right now Chris Middleton's too involved with our team right now to be able to trade him. He's one of our core members that we kind of need, especially with how our offense has been struggling. So I don't know. I don't know if we're going to be able to squeeze a trade out there before the deadline, but I'll be surprised if we do. And I'd be excited. Honestly, anything right now to help us win is needed, and hopefully we can start winning more games.
I'd love to see the Bucks. We were talking about the Mavs there earlier with Bobby Portis going for Grant Williams. I'd love to see them try to get Derek Lively Jr. from the Mavs there. He's a rookie this year, 7'1" out of Duke. The guy's got some moves down there in the paint. It's going to take a lot to get him just because of the youth with him. But if the Mavs were in a win now situation, maybe you could flip a guy like Brook Lopez down there. I don't know. That would definitely be a long stretch. But I mean, my next hypothetical question for you. So if the Bucks, I mean, looking at the whole situation right now, as we've talked, we don't know if they can address the whole problem. Would you say it would be a bad idea for the Bucks to say, okay, this season we're okay, but we're probably out of it right now? Do we maybe look at trading a guy like Chris Middleton, trading a guy like Brook Lopez, and trying to get younger while keeping our other stars like Giannis and Dame intact? Now we bring in some younger pieces, like you said, DeAndre Hunter, some of them kind of players there to come into this Bucks organization. And then, as you know, because we got a couple years, I mean, I can't remember what Giannis's contract is yet, But we got a couple years with Giannis. You got some years left with Dame. You could build around those two with younger guys, build them up as they go, and then start this thing over. We talked about yesterday getting a little bit older. We don't have a lot of trade pieces. I mean, our trade pieces are in stock with Middleton and Brook Lopez, guys like that. So, I mean, Rogan, how would you feel about the Bucks going in that direction where I don't think they get worse? I don't think they get completely better, but I don't think they get worse. I think they add more depth and they add some younger talent to this roster here in a season where it looks like, I mean, in the East right now, as I can see, the Celtics are the front runner. And then in the West, you could pick a team and say they could possibly do it. So it's going to be a tough stretch for the Bucks. I mean, how would you feel about that scenario for the Bucks?
I think we're kind of acting like the Bucks have no shot this year, and I think that's far from the truth. They're sitting at second right now, and the only team I'd take in the East over them right now is the Celtics. And you look at their record compared to the West, and they're, I believe, a game back out of first place in the West. There's only like one team better than them. So I think you make a good trade or two, and I think they're right in this. You can't tell me that Giannis and Dame in the postseason can't go and beat any team if you get a little bit better on the defensive end. And the play steps up in the playoffs. We haven't seen this team have to go win a 7-game series yet and put full effort into every game. This is an older team. Older teams like to dog it during the regular season and turn it on in the playoffs. So, and yeah, I think they need to get younger, but you can't afford to get young and then have to spend 2 years building up the players to make another run at it in 2 years, especially not in Milwaukee. Like, it's got to be you're going all in every year until Giannis is out of Milwaukee at this point. So I don't think they're that far off. They have to get better on the defensive end. This offense is good enough to win a championship. This is the best offense the Bucks have ever had. They're good enough on that end. You need a couple guys on the defensive end, and there's with how the NBA trade deadline works, and there being 16 hours before the deadline is a lot of time in the NBA for trades. So I think they're close, and they just need a guy or two. So I'm looking to find him, and I wouldn't mind moving on from Lopez. I don't see Middleton just because, like we were saying a couple weeks ago, him and Giannis are so close. Like, I just don't think you could do that if you want to keep Giannis at least.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think the Bucks are that far off. I just don't see them winning a 7-game series. I don't. I really think they'll struggle simply because they don't have the bench to back it up. In a 7-game series, you're going to need scorers off the bench. You're going to need guys who can come in and, say, replace a guy like Dame for a little bit or Giannis for a little bit and not lose that scoring edge. You can't get yourself into a hole. And that's where I kind of worry with this Bucks team and the lack of scoring there from the likes of, say, Beasley and Lopez, who have struggled here this year. Lopez has been getting a little bit better as of late. And I mean, that's expected. He's going to be up and down. He's aging, but I mean, I just think they're missing pieces yet. And I think they could address most of it. And I don't think they're completely out of it, but it just seems like they're kind of at the point where it's the crossroad and they could go either way. I mean, look at the Brewers. We thought the Brewers would stay all in, and then all of a sudden they flip script on us and trade away the farm. So with this Bucks team, I'm not saying get younger to the point where they're developing for years to come. Like DeAndre Hunter, like you were talking about before, I don't think he's a developmental project. He's already there. He's already established, but he's a younger piece. Some of those kind of guys, I don't want to dip all the way backwards where, like you said, we're 2 to 3 years out. I'm looking at guys where you can bring them in and not really lose a step. You're losing experience, but you're not losing a step there on the scoring or anything like that. So that's kind of where I'm leaning with it, with the Middleton. I know you can't really get rid of Middleton. That would upset Giannis, but at some point, our owner, GM, have to realize that they're in charge of this team. And I know it's hard to say, but I mean, Giannis is not the owner of this basketball team. And that's what I think a lot of people need to, especially him, need to see right now, because otherwise we're going to see a lot of head coaches in the city of Milwaukee here.
I don't think they're scared of Giannis. I think they're scared of like us as fans. Could you imagine the Bucks going and trading Middleton, and then Giannis comes out a week later and says, I want to be gone. Like, this team backstabbed me. Like, us as fans, even though like I wouldn't mind moving on from Middleton, and I'd be like the first one to say like, let's go maybe find a different guy. If Middleton got traded and then Giannis left because of that, I would demand that the owners of the Bucks be gone, coach be gone, GM be gone, they all be gone. So
yep.
Yeah, it's a tough spot for them.
No, it really is. You're a pawn in the game. And that's the thing, is that Giannis has that control because, I mean, star player. That's just how it goes. So definitely interesting. We're hoping to see a Bucks move. We're going to be on it Austin's going to be watching like a hawk. He's going to be watching to see if the Bucks make a move. He's going to let everybody know. He's watching right now. He fixed his glasses. He's ready to rock.
I'm watching every single move of the Bucks. They're probably gonna make a trade at midnight. Honestly, that's probably what's gonna happen. I'm gonna be sleeping in my bed and be like, crap, I missed it.
He's got the owner on speed dial. He'll be the first one to know.
Honestly, I don't even know the owner. Does Mark Ananasio own the Bucks too? Probably some stupid crap like that. Who is the owner of the Bucks?
No.
Does Aaron Rodgers still a minority owner of the Bucks there?
I don't know about that one.
I know he was for a little
bit. Do you know
the Bucks owner?
Yeah, who's the owner of the Bucks?
They just sold it, so now it's like owned by D. Haslam, Jimmy Haslam, Wes Edens, and Jamie Dinan.
Are they like related
I've
to
never heard of
Haslam?
It's a Haslam Sports ownership group.
What the?
Huh. Interesting.
Saudi Arabia, man, they're coming for everything.
You know, people hate Jerry Jones, but at least I know that guy. At least he's making moves to try and win games.
And
what do our owners do? Our owners just, I don't know, feast off of the Bucks and don't really put money back. Or our owners.
Yeah, Jerry Jones has done a great job. What, one NFC championship in the last 30 years?
Okay, yeah, he's given the. I hate the Cowboys. But he's given them potential to do good.
Them Cowboys.
Hey, he's given them the potential, and then Dak Prescott plays playoff football, and he just sucks.
They are very good in the regular season. I'll give them that one. They put together a good roster. It's just when it comes to playoff times, Dak sucks. I mean,
when they meet the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs, they just crap the bed.
This is true. Everybody remembers Dez Bryant dropped that ball. So with that, we got to move on here. We got to talk about our sponsors. First off, your hometown team, Century 21 Gold Key Realty. Call Peggy Sue or Anna to find your dream home, or if you're looking to sell, find them on Facebook at your hometown team, Century 21 Gold Key Realty, or stop in and see them at their location in Marshfield. And Pittsville Farm and Home Center. At the store, they serve you anything from hydraulic hoses to red roses. Stop in and see the awesome crew at Pittsville Farm and Home Center in Pittsville, and Sport and Spine Clinic in Greenwood. If you have a sports injury or you're looking for some physical therapy, that's the guy you got to check out. Sport and Spine Clinic in Greenwood. They'll get you right and on your way. So with that, getting out of the Bucks, I want to get into our Wisconsin sports question of the day. Rogan was the last guy to come up with his, so I'm going to go to Rogan first with this one. Rogan, what do you got for us? Wisconsin sports question of the day.
All right, boys. I've been hearing some people have been talking about this. So my question for you guys is, what would the name be of an NHL team if they brought one to Wisconsin? What do you think the name would be? I'm all ears.
It's got to be some type of animal.
Wow.
Maybe the Badgers.
That's tough.
I'm kidding.
That's tough. That's bad. That's a very good question because I don't know what to answer with.
Maybe we do some type of, you know how Chicago has the Bears and the Cubs? We have the Bucks. Let's go the Does.
Stop. Stop.
Or the Fawns, the Bambis, the Wisconsin Bambis.
Oh, I got it. The state bird is a robin. We go the fighting robins. Come on. I mean, red belly.
Oh, because I'm scared of a robin, Trajan. Oh.
Yeah, and I'm scared of a doe.
We go to prison if we kill a robin in Wisconsin.
What's a packer? Are you supposed to be afraid of a packer?
The Acme Packers, Trage. Know your Packer history, all right?
We have all these lakes. Do we have any things that we could use, like the Wisconsin trout?
There are what?
The walleye.
Ooh, the muskies.
Walleye?
The Wisconsin walleyes.
Ooh, muskies actually does sound.
Muskie's cool.
And then, like, you know how they have in Seattle where they throw salmon onto the thing, or is that trout? We could throw like muskies onto the ice. Have you ever seen that?
Can you imagine trying to throw a full-grown muskie onto an ice rink, trying to clear?
A player gets a hat trick. They don't get hats; they get fish.
The Wisconsin brown trout.
The Wisconsin brown trout. Why does it got to be brown? The Wisconsin salmon.
I thought it was a good question because it's like hard. Like what? There's so many. Where do you go with that?
The Wisconsin cattle. Ooh.
Trying to
find. Trage looks like he's thinking pretty hard right now.
I'm trying to find animals in Wisconsin that we could name.
I see the smoke coming out of you. Wisconsin moose. I don't think there's that many moose in Wisconsin.
No, there's barely any moose.
We have any moose in Wisconsin. I think we have elk.
And I've never seen one in person.
And 5 of them. What about
the Wisconsin albino does?
The wolves.
What about
the Wisconsin wolves?
The wolves.
There's the Minnesota Wild already.
The Wisconsin white-tailed doe. Or deer. We could just go deer. We give them a pair of brown pants, and on the back of them is just a white speck right on the middle of their butt. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the tail, the white tail. You know what I'm saying?
All I would say is if we named them the white-tailed does or the white-tailed deer, I would actually feel worried for those players because the amount of bullying that would take place on the ice would be insane.
How about the Wisconsin milkers?
What about
the
Wisconsin Holstein cows?
They just
don't add cows. Just Wisconsin Holstein.
The Wisconsin herd. No, we already have the herd.
Instead of a champagne shower after the Stanley Cup, it's just Nature's Touch milk flying around.
Nature's Touch milk getting chucked over the top. Just in spray, they just have instead of shooting T-shirts out, they shoot out milk bottles all around.
They get milk cartons. They get the elementary True Moo milk cartons into the stands. Boom, boom, boom. Everyone
How'd you get a black eye? I went to the hockey game last night and somebody shot. I went to the
crowd. I went to the Wisconsin Holsteins game and they started shooting milk cartons at us. What the hell is a Wisconsin Holstein? Don't worry about it.
The halftime performance was a Holstein race. They brought live animals out into the rink.
You know how Texas they have the Longhorn run.
Milk race.
The Texans have a Longhorn run. They run a cow out there instead. On the ice. And then we watch it struggle on the ice to get back into the cage.
Halftime, we send a bunch of people out there with the stool, and they have to sit underneath of a cow and see who can milk it the fastest. You got to fill up 2 pails full of milk and we see who wins that race.
Then we donate it to a charitable
the milk race.
Charitable place. There you go.
There we go. We feed the hungry, and we can provide for the community. That's what we do.
So wait. Where would this team be then? In Madison, maybe?
No, I think somewhere random. We got to pick somewhere random.
The Madison Milkers. Guys, the Madison Milkers.
Chautauqua, Wisconsin.
What? No, I feel like it's got to be like...
No, the Holman Holsteins. We put it in Holman, Wisconsin. We got the Holman Holsteins.
Ooh, how about the New Holsteins?
That's a good one. I like that one. We go to New Holstein with this.
We're going to New Holstein by Fondy.
Holsteins.
The New Holstein.
What about the New Glarus Gladiators?
The New Glarus Beer Makers.
Yeah, it's got to be something with drinking. We're in Wisconsin.
We already got brewers, though.
Yeah.
True.
The New Glarus Spotted Cows.
That's all that we do in Wisconsin, boys. Let's be honest.
What about the Chautauqua Chuggers?
Does Chautauqua have an airport that opposing teams can go to, though?
They got to find Minneapolis.
Got a small municipal airport that they could fly a small biplane.
They can land at Fort McCoy and then drive up to Chautauqua.
That'd be fine with me. I mean, come on, that'd be great.
We could put an airstrip. They just get a whole aircraft carrier of people flying into Fort McCoy for a hockey game, just to play the New Holsteins. What the hell?
I'd be in with it.
Austin. Now we have to go R-rated because you just said HE double hockey sticks.
What the HE double? Well, it's hockey.
This is like the Pat McAfee show. Do we have the thing where the whiteboard 7 days in a row without swearing? Now it's back down to 0.
I'm going to put one right behind my head on the wall there, and it's going to say 0. We got a big fat 0 on it now, thanks to Austin. So, Austin, just for
it's
that,
a place, guys.
Give us your Wisconsin sports question of the day. Give us your Wisconsin sports question of the day.
I don't think mine's as good as Rogan's because that was actually a pretty good one. Mine's still hockey related. But the Badgers posted this on Tuesday. On this day in 2010, the Badgers men hockey team won the Camp Randall Hockey Classic, coming from behind to beat Michigan 3-2 in front of 55,031 fans. Now, I don't think there's been a Camp Randall Hockey Classic since then, and we've seen a lot of teams kind of do this. We saw Iowa play a basketball game in Kinnick Stadium. We saw, Nebraska play a volleyball game in wherever their stadium's called. So I think, and hockey is kind of one of those games that you can play outside, actually, because we've seen the NHL, they've done quite a few winter classics where they play in MLB Stadium, and even the Wild played some hockey games super far up north in Minnesota, in some random town that produced like 3 hockey players. It's almost as small as Greenwood. It's a pretty small town there. So I think that would actually be pretty interesting if they brought that back, but it's not really a question. Well, it is kind of a question. Would that be something that the Badgers should do, is kind of bring that back? Especially they could play a doubleheader, a men's and women's game, and it should be like a Minnesota rivalry game almost, where we just pack Camp Randall for some Big Ten hockey there.
I think they definitely should. I think that would be you're going to sell out the stadium, I can tell you that much. I know when the Badgers played at American Family Field for that game, I went to that, and there was a lot of people at that game. You're selling out the place, and it's not even a baseball game, it's a basketball game. So I think it's definitely one of those things that draws a crowd. My favorite basketball game to watch is still they play on that the carrier ship. They play it on, it's usually early on in the season they play. I can't remember what ship it is that they play that basketball game.
I know what you're talking about.
That's my favorite game to watch because it's just so cool thinking about a basketball game being played on a boat. I mean, you don't see that too often. So I think it would definitely be a great idea to bring it back.
I'm wondering how the ball never goes into the ocean when they're playing that game. You know what I mean?
Did you watch the game? Like, have you ever watched that game?
Humpky, it's not like the court's on the edge of the ship, like you trip and you just fall in the ocean. Yeah, Duke actually, sadly, they won today, but they lost. They lost 2 players to fatal ship deck.
Flipakowski ended up flipping overboard on he tried to save a loose ball, and
Duke is still looking for Coach K as he's lost at sea.
Could you imagine the Badgers?
He wasn't there.
When the Badgers go to the barn, they practice diving off the court there to flip back in. When you go play on the ship, you have to practice diving and not falling into the ocean.
You have to go to
get your floaties on, boys. Get your floaties on.
They make you wear floaties, so as you're falling, you can just engage them like a parachute on your way down to catch you when you hit the bottom. Now, Rogan, going to you on that question, Austin had. What do you got?
No, I think that would be awesome. I didn't even realize they used to do that. I was just looking like why they stopped, and I didn't see much. I just saw the last one they had was in 2010. But could you imagine with how good these hockey teams are right now, like having a Saturday night 5:00 men's or women's play, and then 8:00 the other team plays like a Saturday night in Camp Randall, like that? You can't tell me that would not sell out right now with how good these teams are. In mid-January, Minnesota's coming in or Michigan's coming to Camp Randall, and you play at Camp Randall, like. That would be, it would be a nightmare for the poor people that have to do the rink and everything. But man, that would be a crazy environment. I think they should look into bringing that back for sure.
Because how big is the Kohl Center? It's like 30K.
I think it's 22.
I think it's 22.
Yeah, it's not very big. And then LeBron Arena, that's what it's called, where the women's play, right, Rogan?
Yeah,
that's not.
LeBron,
yeah, that's pretty small.
That's tiny.
So I mean, I think it'd be great. Put that on ESPN, and I'm sure a lot of people will watch it. And you also get a lot of fans there.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is like it doesn't even matter if you're a true fan of hockey, say hockey or whatever sport it is. When it's held at some kind of cool stadium or anything like that, you still get people who attend that game just because they want to see the atmosphere. They want to be a part of something like that. You know, I've been to a Wisconsin men's and women's hockey game, and I don't really recall ever going back because hockey's just not my forte. But if they had one at Camp Randall, I would be there. I'd be there to watch that game because I think it would just be that. It would be a different kind of feel to it being at Camp Randall. So my question of the day, and this kind of leads to all of the NFL, but it combines the Packers in there too. With the XFL and USFL now combining to be the UFL, could you see, say, each NFL team buying an expansion team into this league where it is now kind of like a minor league system for these teams, getting guys ready for that next level? We've seen guys come out of the XFL and we've seen guys come out of the USFL and move their way up into the NFL. It's kind of like a minor league ground already. Could you see, that kind of being something that's brought to the forefront here where NFL teams would have that ability to, we don't have to keep this guy on our roster now. We'd be able to pick, and like the MLB kind of does, where they have that ability to pull guys up when they want to, send them down. I don't know if it would be that to that extent because that would be a big roster at the end of the day, paying a lot of guys. But I mean, I don't know what the contracts are in the XFL. I can't imagine they're really crazy amount of money. So I don't think the NFL would bat an eye on it. But I think it would be definitely interesting because it would get guys ready for that next level when they're not completely ready now. So, I mean, I just wanted to hear what you guys thought of that whole scenario.
Yeah, I don't think it's kind of like, I don't think it'd work as a minor league system, like put like the MLB, like putting guys down, bringing guys up. I feel like the NFL is a little bit too complicated. It's a little bit more complicated than MLB per se, because first off, you only get 50 guys on your roster, something like that in the NFL. Like, I don't know, major leagues there's a lot, or maybe I guess major leagues there's only 40, but major leagues is a lot lower.
Yeah. You have a 20.
40 when it comes to the playoffs, isn't it?
No, you have a 40-man roster in total, so those are the guys that you can pick and choose between. You have to be on the 40-man roster to be able to be called up from, say, like AAA to come up to the major league level. I think it's 25, but they might have dropped that number even lower now. It's low 20s, I know that. Rogan, do you know the exact
amount in MLB now? Baseball is confusing.
It's 20, it was 25, but now you have to have 25 out of 26 spots filled at all times.
Okay. So it's
like you were saying,
in that range.
You can have 40 to call up.
Yeah.
Like you can have, yeah.
And then if you get taken off the 40, I mean, so you have a lot less guys there at the major league level at least.
And then I think once postseason comes, I think it goes to like 30. I think it goes up a couple.
I don't know. They've changed it. They've changed it over the years here on us. So it used to be you added like 3 more guys. Now I believe you get a taxi squad. So I believe it goes up to 28. And then you have 3 guys that technically you can't use unless if a guy gets injured. And then you're able to use one of those guys. They're with the team already, but they're not technically active on the roster.
Trage, you pretty much just explained to me why the US, whatever it is, I don't think it will be able to be a minor league just because of how complicated the major leagues is. I don't even know how they're able to figure that out, and I don't know if NFL will be able to figure it out. Things are just working right for it, but I do think that how the UF or the U what is the new league called? XFL, UFL.
Yeah,
I think from how the XFL and USFL were working before, and it gives an opportunity for guys that might not be able to get to the major leagues. It's another opportunity, or straight out of college. It gives them another opportunity to get to the major leagues, like we saw Brandon Aubrey and other players. I just think having a minor leagues, first off, minor leagues are confusing for me in general because baseball, like, why do you got to go up through the minor leagues? Why can't you just be good enough to play in the major leagues? Because I just been trained like that for football, because football is my favorite sport. So just I feel like that would make a little bit more. I think that would make things a little bit more complicated for football.
Okay, let me rephrase it for you, and this could lead into Rogan's here. Leaning off of more towards like a minor league during the season, but could you see it as more of like a spring thing, where this is your spring training ground for players? They're still technically involved in your organization, but it's not during your season that they're playing in this other league. It's kind of like your developmental league, right? Your new guys aren't jumping into the NFL right away. They're getting that time playing in competitive games. I mean, does what do you call it, the preseason, does it really get you ready for what you're going to see week 1 of the NFL season? No, because they say the hardest guys hit are on the first game of the season and in the playoffs. Those are the 2 hardest times you're going to get hit in a football game. So I mean, would it work as a spring thing? I don't know. I that's kind of what I was leaning towards with it.
The one problem with football and having like a minor league is like the amount it takes out of your body. So to ask these guys to develop in real life games during the spring and then have no rest and recovery period and immediately go into a regular season, like you're talking about it's a 17 game season now. Plus if you make a playoff run and then you're going to have like your rookies go develop in like an 8 to 10 game UFL season. Like you're asking them to play 30 games in a calendar year with maybe a month off in between. Like, I mean, when we used to play in high school, some of us would play a JV game on Monday and then play a varsity game on Friday, and that sucked. Like you had a whole weekend to get ready for a JV game, and still when you came back Monday, you were sore. And I can't imagine being an NFL player and then having to play a whole year-round schedule. Like, it's not like basketball and baseball, where baseball you can play three games in a week, and if you're not a pitcher, like you're going to get used to playing 3 games a week pretty quick, and it's not too hard on your body. Same with basketball. Football is just, I think you kind of see the football is minor league is their practice squad. Like if you need guys to develop, you sign to your practice squad, you get reps at practice, and you're not doing a lot of contact stuff, but you're working on individual skills. So it's hard with football to have a minor league and ask these guys to play even more than they are. And to be honest, like, how confident are we that the UFL is going to last? Like these things never last. It feels like every 5 years there's a new minor league football league, and the fans just, I don't know. Football's exhausting in the regular season as a fan to watch, and once it's done, you kind of need that break, and that's why people are so excited for it to come back because you get refreshed. People just aren't willing to watch it once the NFL is done, I think. So
I think it'll last. I really do think it'll last. Now with The Rock kind of being in charge of it, he's a very influential person there in his own right. So, I mean, I think it'll last. I think it's going to be interesting to see what the NFL, I think it could be a developmental league for rules for the NFL, because I think, the kickoff rule that they brought out now in the XFL, they had it in there where the kicker still started at the 35, but everybody else got pushed forward. I mean, I could see that being implemented in the NFL because it's going to lead to a lot less of hard hits on kick returns. Guys are going to be kind of closer to the action. So I could see it definitely being a rule, like where, not like a rule, but where rules are made and then, the NFL kind of is like, I kind of like that. I'm going to take that into consideration for our end. So it definitely is an interesting topic. I could see it where an NFL team would be interested in it, but like you guys were talking there, it's difficult. It would definitely be 100% difficult to be able to balance both and have the roster for both and everything like that. So with that, jumping out of the questions for the day, I want to get into our last sponsor here, Game Day Supply in Onalaska. Do you have a sports club or team? Are you looking for some sweet custom uniforms or apparel? Check out the awesome crew at Game Day Supply in Onalaska to help your team get the sweetest gear. Find them on Facebook at Game Day Supply or online at GameDaySupply.net. But with that, I want to get to Austin here with our fact of the day.
On this day in 2023, all right? This one's pretty recent, but it was on this day. LeBron James scores his 38th point to become NBA's all-time leading scorer as the Lakers they were down 133 to 130 to Oklahoma City Thunder in Los Angeles, and he surpassed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He surpasses point mark at 38,387 career points. So LeBron James in the league for 40 years, and he finally surpassed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
I hate LeBron, so I can't say anything. Anybody got any good things to say about LeBron James here? I got nothing good to say.
I never liked him, but I think over the last 2 years, especially after watching that finals against the Warriors where they were 73 wins, like I don't like him, but dude, the guy's amazing. Like has to be in the GOAT conversation. And I don't like him, but the dude is arguably the greatest player ever. So
he's in there. I just don't put him over top of Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan. I just can't. I just can't do it. I can't. You know, and the thing that kills me when people have the GOAT conversation.
I think I put him over the top because he does have that in-season basketball tournament banner that the others don't have. So personally, he's the GOAT.
Yeah. Sorry. Michael Jordan did not win a in-season tournament championship, so Michael Jordan automatically drops below LeBron. I'm sorry. I forgot about that one. I just, the thing that always kills me is when people have the GOAT conversation, they always leave out Kobe Bryant. That's the one guy people always leave out. It's always between LeBron and Mike. But you cannot jump over Kobe Bryant there and get to Michael Jordan. You have to talk about Kobe Bryant before you can talk about LeBron James. Kobe Bryant, and those two guys paved the way for that guy to come in there. I mean, that's for me is how it is in the league. I mean, different eras, it's hard to compare them, but
boys, I say I put LeBron in the GOAT conversation. But that doesn't mean I think he's a GOAT. In my opinion, Michael Jordan's the GOAT. It's not
all I gotta
say, 6-0.
2 3-peats, baby. 2 3-peats.
Do you want to know what he was in Game 7s? Do you want to know his record in Game 7s in the finals? 0-0 because he never had to get to a Game 7.
You don't need Game 7. I want to know would LeBron play after somebody tried to kill him with a pizza? That's what I want to know because that flu game, Michael Jordan went off. I'm telling you, he went off, and people just overlook that game. They overlook it. I never thought about it, but the Detroit Pistons could have had a 4-peat. They could have won 4 in a row if they wouldn't have had a few things go wrong there. I was looking it up the other day, and they had 2 championships there in a row, and they could have had 2 more. Detroit, I'm sorry for Detroit. I really am. Detroit is, Detroit's in rough shape. So moving on here, I want to get into college basketball here. We got the Badgers coming up tonight, but I want to talk about this first. Looking at the top 25, we didn't get into it yesterday there. UConn stays at number 1. Purdue stayed at 2. North Carolina remains at 3. Kansas moved up 4 spots to number 4 spot, but actually, 2 days ago, they lost to Kansas State. So Kansas lost. They're expected probably to drop again. Houston dropped the spot to 5, then Tennessee. Marquette moved back up to the number 7 spot, followed by Arizona, then Duke. Illinois back at 10. Wisconsin dropped 5 spots. They're at 11 now. Auburn moved up 4 spots. Baylor moved up 5. Iowa State dropped 2. South Carolina finally into the rankings there with that 19-3 record. They moved up 11 spots to the 15 spot. Alabama there moved up 8 spots. Kentucky dropped 7. Dayton moved up 3. Creighton dropped 6. Florida Atlantic stayed at 20. They're just keeping Florida Atlantic in there to tick everybody off. BYU moved up a spot to 21, followed by Utah State, then Texas Tech. San Diego State moved up 2 spots from the 26th, technically, up to that 24 spot. And New Mexico dropped 6 spots into that 25. Other teams receiving votes, Indiana State is going to end up in the top 25 here pretty soon. They are up to 53 votes now to get in the top 25. I believe last time we checked in, they were at like 30. So Indiana State at some point here, I am betting you, is going to end up in that top 25. Other than that, I mean, Texas on the outside looking in, Gonzaga. How many times could you say Gonzaga only got 2 votes to be into the top 25? That's baffling. We haven't seen Gonzaga on the outside looking in a very long time. But looking at the top 25, Honestly, nothing crazy. Duke only dropped 2 spots after losing to North Carolina, but kind of what we expected. North Carolina did lose early on last week, but they made up for it, beat Duke, so that kept them up with that 3 spot. I've never liked Houston. They're sitting at that 5 spot yet. Still don't like them. Other than that, I mean, top 25 looks fine to me. Anything you guys are seeing there in the top 25 that is interesting to you? Or
South Carolina kind of making a push there with their wins over. I know they beat Kentucky for one of them, and this is not going to load. I think they beat Tennessee. They beat some pretty good top. I know you guys are laughing at me because my connection is not good and you can't hear me, but they beat some pretty good teams there, and they're making a push for a really good end of the year. They beat Kentucky and Tennessee, like I said, there when Kentucky's ranked number 6, Tennessee number 5. So they're making a push there to be one of the top teams, possibly in the tournament towards the end of the year. They moved up 11 spots, so very impressive by them. That's kind of only the biggest shocker for me. FAU, I don't know what they're still doing there, but they're kind of there. New Mexico, sad time to be a New Mexico Lobo there. Dropped 6 spots, but still in the top 25, so good for them.
Yeah, Trey, I'm just looking at this, and I'm pretty good with the top 25, actually. I mean, I look at some of these teams in here. Badgers moved down to about where I thought they would. Illinois is at 10 there. There's really nothing on this list. Obviously, Duke only moves down 2, but they lost to a really good North Carolina team there. And I think that top 4 is perfect. I think those are definitely the 4 best teams. And like I was saying, next week, I think there is definitely a cutoff after that those top 4 teams, and then the rest of the teams there. The one thing I just want to point out is Iowa State sitting at 14. The reason I bring up Iowa State is because I know we were kind of harping on Greg Gard a couple days ago, and I will say the one thing that frustrates me with Greg Gard is his inability to bring in the top recruits in our state. We never get the top recruits out of our state. You look at a guy like Seth Trimble a couple years ago, goes to North Carolina. Tyler Hero, he doesn't come to Madison. He goes to, I believe, Kentucky. And then you look at this Iowa State team this year, and they got a guy by the name of Milan
Momcilovic.
Yeah, Austin's got him. He's a guy that's coming out of Pewaukee there, 3-time defending state champion, number 1 recruit in Wisconsin last year, and we could not get him. And now he's playing on this Iowa State team as a freshman, averaging 14 points a game, shooting almost 50% from the field. Who's the guy that's the number 1 recruit this year that just committed to
Knuppel.
Yeah, him. And now you look at that Milan's teammate on Pewaukee, Nick Janikowski. He's the top guard. He's like
He's going to Nebraska.
Yeah, he's going to Nebraska. Like, we're never able to you look at who are the 2 brothers out of Stevens Point?
The Hauser brothers.
We couldn't get either of them guys. Like, there's really good talent coming out of Wisconsin. And I understand, like that guy, that Knuppel kid that's going to Duke. Like, obviously the Badgers probably not going to be able to get him. Like, he's a really good player. He's going to go to one of those top-tier schools. But there's no reason you shouldn't be able to get this Milan guy or this Nick Janikowski guy. Like, you have to get some of these guys once in a while. I understand if you're not getting the top-end guys. But even then, you should get some of them once in a while. Like, it is their home state, and we can't get any of them for some reason.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Trage. I was just agreeing with it, but
no, I 110% agree with you. And you look at a guy. I mean, you just said, did you say Jack Daughtry is going to Illinois State? I believe he's a 3-star shooting small forward out of the state of Wisconsin. I believe he's heading to Illinois State. He's going to Illinois State. I mean, a 3-star out of the state of Wisconsin. I'm not saying that this 3-star guy is over the top going to be this amazing, basketball player, but look at even these last 2 guys, 2 more, another small forward by the name of Amari McCautry. He's from St. Thomas More, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He's a 3-star recruit. Badgers aren't even in on him. And then they have a guy by the last name of Conan from St. Thomas More, same high school as this McCautry guy, and he's a power forward, two positions that the Badgers could use some help at, and no offer from the University of Madison. So, we don't go out of state you can't get these, like you were talking there. I mean, Knuppel, a 5-star recruit, it was going to be hard to keep him in state. I get it. But at the same time, you got to find a way. You have to be able to find a way to keep one of these guys home. I mean, what was the last 5-star recruit the Badgers kept home? Sam Decker? That must have been the last 5-star recruit that stayed in Wisconsin.
Trey, you're talking about, I was just kind of thinking to myself, I just said that obviously these top end guys are probably not going to stay, but you look at this Badger team this year, they're ranked 6th. This team is if I'm Greg Gard, I'm going to these 5-star recruits, these 4-star guys, and being like, I know you can go to this Kansas or you can go to Duke, but we're not that far off these teams. We've competed with these teams for the last 15 years and consistently beat them. I think under Greg Gard, the Badgers have 12 wins over top 5 teams. Like, we're you away from being a national title contender. We're a 5-star away from being a Final Four national championship contender. And I kind of have to throw another question out there. I know they've talked about this in the past, but how much are grades playing a factor in some of these guys coming here? Because I know for a fact, you look at some of these guys, and Madison didn't even offer them a scholarship or a spot on the team simply because of their grades. And I know obviously Madison's a pretty academic school and stuff like that, but I don't know. It's hurting our recruiting, and same goes for football, I think.
I've heard it both ways. I've heard that Madison is super tough to get into because of grades. And then I've also heard a guy like Melvin Gordon was in class for the first day of class, and he was in class for the last day, but in between somebody else was there. He was never in class. So I've heard it both ways. I know Diamond Stone couldn't get into Madison, so that's why he ended up at Maryland, and that was a pretty good in-state recruit. The only thing that kicks me with recruiting, and Rogan, you were talking about this the other day, Steven Crowell, soft, right? The Badgers have a big man problem right now because you're trying to force a guy like Nolan Winter into a role right when he steps on the court in Madison, right? As a freshman, you want him to be able to go battle with Zach Edey. There's no way. I mean, if you give Nolan Winter 40 minutes against Zach Edey's going to eat him alive, right? And that's where I think sometimes with this recruiting that really kicks me is that they recruit, but they don't recruit in this, we talked about Chris Hodges, right? What's going on with Chris Hodges? Why isn't he getting playing time? That was your in-between big man, right? In between Crowell and in between Nolan Winter, you had Chris Hodges. And we did not see Chris Hodges ever develop into anything, or as of what we've seen so far in Madison. So it makes you kind of wonder, where is, the recruiting? It's happening, but are we recruiting correctly? Are we getting the guys that we actually need on this roster? And it goes back to in-state talent, too. You're losing a lot of in-state talent. You're losing a lot of in-state talent at the positions that you need, the positions that you need to fill. And that's where it kind of concerns me with the recruiting end of it. And that is, I don't know. I know Greg Gard was in charge of recruiting for Bo Ryan. I imagine Greg Gard is in there with recruiting for this new Badger team. I don't know if somebody else like Joe Krabanoff or somebody else is involved in it too. So, the whole thing has to come into question there of why are we not recruiting this way, and why is it such a struggle to find guys that fit the system in Madison? That's where football is the prime example. Paul Chryst couldn't recruit. That's what they told us for years. Paul Chryst couldn't recruit. We saw it come to full tuition there where we did not have the pieces in Madison to put us over the top. Number 6 in the nation now, you should be able to recruit guys. Why aren't guys coming to Madison? Why can't you keep them in the state? That's $1 million question, and I wish somebody could answer it for me.
Hey, at least we got Isaac Gard on our basketball team out of Hartford, Wisconsin. I get you want your kid to be on the team, but is Isaac Gard really good? Is he good? No, he's not. All right, he gets probably 30 seconds every 5 games. That's not the in-state talent that we're trying to get here. We have 7 guys, technically 7 guys from Wisconsin on this roster here. Gus Yalden is technically from Appleton, Wisconsin, but he went to La Lumiere down in Indiana. So do you really want to count him from Wisconsin? Maybe. But technically 7 if you count him. A lot of Minnesota guys. It seems like that's kind of where we want to recruit our guys, which isn't bad. But even then, what kind of recruits are we getting out of Minnesota? We love Lakeville North. Love Lakeville North. We get a lot of guys from there. But there's so many better guys in Minnesota also that we're not really reaching towards out either. And if you're not going to get the best guys out of Minnesota, at least get the best guys out of Wisconsin. There's been so many guys. It's actually kind of ridiculous how much Wisconsin has for talent. Yeah, we're not California. Yeah, we're not Florida. We're not Texas. But you look at some of these guys who've made it to the NBA. Sam Dekker didn't pan out, but he was still a top 10 draft pick. And there's a lot of good talent. You look at what?
A couple of years ago, Jalen Johnson. A couple of years ago, and he's
Jalen Johnson,
great player on the Hawks right now.
Kobe Johnson, his brother, who won Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. So you look at Halliburton, like even Jordan McCabe. Even Jordan McCabe, we couldn't even get to come to Wisconsin. I mean, obviously he didn't pan out in college, but
he
still
didn't pan out anywhere. So
he didn't pan out anywhere. I think he's a coach actually for West Virginia now, but he was still a really good player out of high school, and we couldn't get him to come to Wisconsin. Maybe it is the grades, honestly, which, I mean, personally, that's a struggle, not a struggle for our team in lacrosse, because lacrosse is one of the higher D3 teams in the WIAC for academics, and you'll see some other, it's not hard to get into lacrosse, but it's harder than some other WIAC teams in our conference. So you see a lot of other guys going to, say, Oshkosh, Whitewater, even Stout and whatnot. And then it also depends on majors. But firsthand, I can tell that, yeah, it is sometimes you won't get recruits because of academics, which honestly kind of sucks. But that's honestly the standards that your university has set for it. And that's something you just can't change. You kind of have to work around it. D1, I think that's way different than D3, obviously, because the help that they get is insane. Like you were saying with Melvin Gordon, didn't even have to show up to class. Like, I mean, if you're an important guy on a sports team, we won't be seeing you in any classes anytime soon. But that's my opinion.
I take what Marcus Landry, when I was talking to him, and, this is a big factor in it too, is that when NBA teams look at guys and they see that they're coming from the University of Wisconsin, they look at them different from a guy who's coming from the University of Duke, from a guy who's coming from the University of North Carolina, from a guy who's coming from Kentucky. Just because of the different play styles that you will get when you get a guy from Wisconsin or if you get a guy from, say, North Carolina. When you look at Wisconsin or even a team like Virginia, right, we see defense, right? That's your two defensively oriented teams who play slow, methodical offenses. That's not the NBA style. That's far from the NBA style nowadays. And you look at guys coming out of Duke, Kentucky, all them places. So you look at a lot of these highly touted recruits, the 5 stars that leave the state of Wisconsin. That's a big factor in it too. They don't want to go to Wisconsin where their offensive skill set technically won't be on full display, because when they walk in the doors at Madison, those guys, like Bo Ryan before Greg Gard, those guys are going to demand you defend the basketball, right? Connor Sejan's a prime example. The guy could shoot the lights out, but he couldn't defend. So Greg Gard held that against him, and that's kind of where it leads me into believing that that's the struggle with getting highly touted recruits into Madison too.
I was actually just going to kind of bring up something like that. I remember Tyler Hero a couple of years ago talking about because I think he played in Milwaukee, and he said he was getting a lot of people were kind of harassing him because he didn't go to Madison and stuff like that.
A lot of boos.
And he was kind of talking about the Madison program for basketball in general. And he's like, I would absolutely love to play for the University of Wisconsin. He said it's just the way that they're run and the program and the system they have in place there. He's like, Madison is a great place, a great school, and he said I would have loved nothing more than to have my name on the back of a Madison jersey. And he said I love Coach Gard, and he's a great coach and stuff. He's like, it's just not a program that's really built for top end recruits, only because he's like, when you go to a school like Madison, you're expected to stick around for 3 to 4 years.
Yep.
He said they don't want to have 1-year rentals like these Kentuckys and Dukes have become used to. And he's like, as a high schooler and stuff, all I want to do is to get to the NBA. And Madison's not built on getting me to the NBA after a year. It's built on building up my fundamentals through 3 years and then possibly sending me off the league. So he said it wasn't that I wasn't attracted to playing at Wisconsin. It's just that it wasn't built for a player of my caliber going in and possibly only playing a year. And it's built for players that need to develop and stuff like that. And that's where I kind of think like a lot of these guys that the Badgers don't even go after, how much of it is either whether it be Bo Ryan. I can't really get on Bo Ryan because they got great talent when he was the coach there. But like, how much is it Greg Gard just doesn't want players who are only going to be there for a year and instead decides to go for these middle tier guys that he knows are going to stick around for 3 years? Because when's the last time you looked at a Badgers starting lineup and saw 3 or 4 freshmen? Like, that's an every year thing with Duke, with Kentucky, with Kansas. Like, Wisconsin has prided itself on building these teams up and having a lot of veteran experience. So that's another factor that plays into it.
The only problem is that in that recruiting trail, they've ran into some problems as of late with the development of certain players along the road where then you have down periods. You know, that those couple years after like Bronson Koenig and all those guys left, when Bronson was still there, they had a little bit of a down period there too, where they weren't over the top yet. They still had a lot of pieces that had to fill in. The question is when do you go away from that? When do you start to say, well, they are changing it up a little bit. I mean, this team is, like you talked about the other day, their offensive efficiency is higher. They're flying at a little bit of a faster pace. They aren't really as slow and methodical as what we're used to in Wisconsin. So when does Greg Gard and his coaching staff say, hey, maybe we got to change it up a little bit here? That way we can keep some of these guys in state, because these guys that we're allowing to walk out the door are going to bigger universities and getting into the tournament and making deep runs into the postseason. If we would have had that guy, we probably would have had that same success. Was Tyler Harrow shortly after, what year was Tyler Harrow a recruit? Was it 2018, 2017?
2019, something like that?
Yeah, I think it was 18.
Would have been just after Bo Ryan left Madison. So that was early years of Greg Gard there. So you were just getting that transition period too. It definitely is changing in Madison. The pace of play and everything like that is definitely changing with the Badgers. So maybe that leads to more of these in-state recruits staying home. So definitely will be interesting there. We got to get into the Badgers, though. They're in action tonight, coming up from the Chrysler Center there in Ann Arbor, Michigan. That'll be coming up against the Wolverines there. Wisconsin coming in 16-6 on the season right now. Michigan coming in 7-15 on the year, but you can't take Michigan lightly. Doesn't matter. You can't take them lightly on the road. I can't handle losing to Howard, so they got to win this game here. So, Austin, who are we seeing in this game? Key guys to watch out for from Michigan.
Yeah, I'll keep it quick because we're running a little late here. You look at Doug McDaniel. He's leading the team in 3 categories here. Points per game, he has 16.8. Assists, 4.9, and steals with 0.9. So pretty good defender and shooter out of Doug McDaniel. Olivier Nkamhoua, I don't know how to say his last name, but he averages 15.9 points per game and 7 rebounds per game. And then Terrence Williams, the second, averages 12.5 points per game there for their scoring. Overall, 77 points per game, 36.5 rebounds per game. So could possibly spell trouble for the Badgers here. They don't have a center listed, but looks like this guy's from Helsinki, Finland. So pretty hard to say his last name here, but he's 6'9", and it seems like he's kind of their big guy there. So maybe take a little bit of advantage out of their smaller guys there, and hopefully we can get back on track here coming off of those 2 losses that we had.
This Michigan team's struggling. They've lost 5 in a row coming into this game against the Badgers, but you can't take them lightly. I mean, you look at their losses. They lost by, it looks like 15 to Illinois, but that was late there where Illinois really pulled away in that one. 10-point loss to Rutgers there, and then Michigan State took care of them. But this is still a solid Michigan team that you take lightly. They're going to beat you, and they're going to beat you bad there at home, and that would be a bad feeling if you are a Badger fan. Like you said, no real big size for this Michigan team. We got it. I mean, the Badgers have a big man problem. They got to fix it now. Somebody has to tell Steven Crowl to figure it out. That's what it's going to be here moving forward through the rest of this year. If the Badgers want to be successful, they need to be able to use the post. They cannot rely on just the jumpers, right? They can't rely on jump shots to win them everything here. They got to be able to go inside. And not just the Tyler Wall. He's a big man, but he's not at the same time. You got to be able to rely on your 7-footer to be able to do things in the paint. This is a game where Steven Crowell's got to get right. He's got to be able to score buckets in this one. He's got to be able to take advantage of a smaller Michigan team. I know he's like you talked about the other day, Rogan. Crowell plays soft, and we have to see a different dimension of Steven Crowl moving forward. Otherwise, I mean, there's nothing the Badgers can be able to do. You got to be able to go away from them then. You cannot play Wisconsin-style basketball with the shooters they have not being able to use the post. Steven Crowl has to be a scorer first, then a passer. Right now, I don't know why he has in his head that he doesn't need to score the basketball, but he's so hesitant to even look to score. He's right away looking to pass out. I need Steven Crowl in this game with an undersized Michigan team to show me something. Otherwise, I don't care if Nolan Winter's got to step in. If we have to see more Chris Hodges, I don't care what the Badgers have to do moving forward. But Steven Crowl needs to be aggressive. And if it's going to take taking his roster, or not his roster spot, but taking away his starting role or taking away minutes from him to light that fire underneath of him, we got to see it. Because even Carter Gilmore shows more aggression than what I'm getting out of Steven Crowl right now on the offensive end. On the defensive end, I think Steven Crowell's fine. I think he plays aggressive on the defensive end. I just don't see it on the offensive end, and that's where it loses me. Why it's on one end, not the other. We have to see it in this game because otherwise the Badgers got to move on. I don't believe they're a good enough three-point shooting team to be able to win every game on the three-point line. And I think a lot in this game, you look at the Purdue game, the loss that they took there, not a lot of shots at the basket. That's another big thing, even with the guard play for the Badgers. I want to see them get downhill. We know A.J. Storr can get to the rim. I've seen Klesmit get to the rim too. We have to see the Badgers get to the rim. That way you can earn it from the charity stripe. Not a lot of free throws in that game against Purdue, but not a lot of opportunities because they settled for a lot of jump shots. And that is what teams are going to do to Wisconsin until they beat it. They're going to double the post. They're going to make the Badgers beat them from the three-point line. And on some occasions, yeah, they will. When Klesmit gets hot and everybody gets hot, but those are select few. They got to be able to find offense elsewhere, and I think they're going to have to do it at the rim, not just with Crowl, but with everybody else. The Badgers have to get to the rim in this game against Michigan.
Yeah, for sure, Trage. You know, like you're saying, I'll keep it short, but Chucky has to have a big game, bounce-back game. Crowell's got to have a bounce-back game. This has got to be a big game for the Badgers to get back on track, and then you know, maybe we'll see a little round two between old Juwan Howard and Greg Gard. I don't know. I wouldn't mind seeing another round of that after a nice Badger W.
There would be nothing better for me than to see Greg Gard square off with Juwan Howard one more time. That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. I don't think Greg Gard knows what kind of fight he's getting into because I don't think Greg Gard would win that fight, but I think it'd be awesome. It'd be good TV. I think we can get a pay-per-view spot for it. I mean, that's something I'd be looking forward to. So this is going to be a big game for the Badgers. So like you said, they have to bounce back in this one. And I think they have to. This cannot be a close game. This cannot be a close game. The Badgers need to blow the doors off of Michigan on the road here. Michigan is a bad team. Wisconsin's coming off of 2 losses. They have to set the tone that we're not falling apart right now because I feel like unless if Michigan comes out and shoots the lights out of the building here, which I don't think will happen, knock on wood. I mean, I don't think will happen there, but Wisconsin has to win this game outright, and they have to take care of business and have this game done with like 10 minutes to go in the second half. That's where I'm at with this Wisconsin team. They have to show me something in this game. Steven Crowl has to show me something. And I agree. I have to see something out of Chucky Hepburn here pretty darn soon. Otherwise, they might have to start looking towards different groupings of guys they can put out there that's going to give them their best scoring options. And I don't believe right now Steven Crowl and Chucky at times are their best scoring options. And if they need a bucket, I don't believe those two guys are out on the court for him because they aren't looking to score. They aren't needed on the court at the time for it. So definitely going to be interesting in this game to see what they do there. Austin, who are you looking at in this game? Who's got to have a big game for the Badgers here to pull off a win against Michigan?
Kind of like what Rogan was saying, I got to go with Crowl and Chucky. They just got to both start producing on the court, kind of what we're missing with this team and what they were able – well, Crowl was able to do at the beginning of the season. Chucky just kind of hasn't figured it out all year. So kind of want to see that out of both of them. And hopefully, like you were saying, we get a big blowout win against a not very good Michigan team.
Definitely is a big you wish it wasn't, such a big matchup for the Badgers. It shouldn't be. This should be a cakewalk, but you never know, especially in the Big Ten going on the road. So with that, Badgers, 6 o'clock tonight coming up on the Big Ten Network. That should be a great game there between Michigan and Wisconsin. Hopefully see a Badger win there. Other than that, that's about all we got for today. We talked about a lot. We have a lot to get into tomorrow there. We know the Bucks will be making moves, so we got to get into that tomorrow. But with that, this has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. Thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you guys back here tomorrow. But until then, deuces.